Hey, good morning, Mizzou fans. Gabe DeArmond here. PM in the AM for May 15th. One quick note. Basketball target JJ Andrews, top 50 player out of Little Rock, Arkansas, set to announce his decision this afternoon at 4 o'clock. Missouri, LSU, Arkansas, the top three. Missouri and Arkansas, widely considered the top two. We'll be following that all day. If JJ Andrews picks Missouri, Drew King and I will jump back on here later this evening and talk about that. Now, let's get to today's topic on PM in the AM. As I mentioned earlier this week, doing a little thing. This is 2025. That means we are a quarter of the way into the 21st century. So we're looking back this week at Power Mizzou at some of the biggest moments in Mizzou athletics since the year 2000. This morning, our first little installment of this was the top 10 stories in Mizzou sports since 2000, and these weren't games or specific events. These were more kind of off the field things. And I'm not putting all of these in order, but this one is really easy. I wanted to take a minute to look back on the biggest story since 2000 in Mizzou sports, which means it's the biggest one I've covered. And I can't imagine how anything would ever be bigger than conference realignment. It lasted about 700 days from the beginning of the first rumors that Missouri was looking at the Big Ten till when Missouri actually ended up in the Southeastern Conference. About a 2-year ordeal. It really seemed longer than that, but it went everywhere from Missouri's in the Big 12 to Missouri's going to the Big 10 to, oh my God, Missouri might end up in the Big East or the Mountain West to Missouri eventually landing in the Southeastern Conference. I think nobody could possibly look back at what happened now, 13, 14 years ago and say anything other than it worked out about as well as possible for Missouri. A quarter of the Big 12 is now in the SEC with Missouri, A&M, and obviously Texas and Oklahoma jumping a couple years ago. Colorado left and is back in the Big 12. Nebraska is over in the Big 10. But look, Missouri, as big a winner, I think, as any of those schools, probably a bigger winner than any of them, along with maybe A&M in conference realignment. The interesting part about this to me, by the time kids who are about to be freshmen at Mizzou are done with college, Missouri will have been an SEC team for as long as it was a Big 12 team. The Big 12 went 94-ish to, 2011 for Missouri. By the time these kids are done, that'll be 18 years as an SEC team for the Missouri Tigers. And you are starting to get a generation of people who just know Missouri as an SEC team. That's what they've been for as long as these people have followed sports. Look, Mizzou will probably always kind of be the new kid on the block in this league. I mean, Arkansas and South Carolina were the new kid on the block for 20 years. So it's going to be a little while, even though Texas and Oklahoma are more recent. It's never going to be, hey, this is where Missouri's been forever. But there are going to be fewer and fewer people that remember the Big 12 or talk about the Big 12, much less the Big 8. And Missouri in the SEC no longer seems weird, right? You play Kentucky, you play South Carolina, you play Georgia and Florida and Alabama. This is just what you do. And I really think just here in the last probably 3 or 4 years has started to seem normal. Like I said, we've got a list of what I consider the 10 biggest stories in Mizzou sports since the year 2000. A lot of coaching changes in there, Michael Sam in there. Bunch of things that have happened, but nothing is ever going to match conference realignment. As Arbo and Lofton said and titled his book when Texas A&M made the jump, this is a 100-year decision. For Missouri, this is probably a forever decision, as long as conferences exist anyway. We like to play over here in our little toy box or sandbox where sports doesn't really kind of have a bigger impact on anything other than sports. But conference realignment, it affected the entire university, the entire landscape of college sports in America, and Missouri was at the center of that. Like I said, it was 2 years, but it seemed like much, much longer when you were in it every day. So hope you guys check out that story. Our 10 biggest stories since 2000. Tomorrow, Friday, we're going to have the 25 best seasons by a Mizzou team. Then we're going to look at the 25 best games. And then on Sunday, we're going to finish things up with the 25 best players. So hope you guys enjoy that over the weekend. Again, JJ Andrews deciding at 4:00. We'll have coverage of that if it goes Missouri's way. Like, comment, share, and subscribe while you're here. Talk to you tomorrow morning.